more on this story, I can welcome Cecile Simmons, who is an independent researcher on masculinism and the author of Control, Hate, Delete, The New Anti-Feminist Backlash and How We Fight It. Good morning, Cecile, and thank you very much for joining us. Can I first ask you, how significant a figure is Andrew Tate within the so-called manosphere, this online space where male influencers proudly advocate misogynistic viewpoints?
Andrew Tate is very much the most visible figure of the latest iteration of male supremacy, male supremacism, or masculinism, as we call it in France. He, in 2022, when Andrew Tate's content received billions of views on TikTok, he really kind of embodied a new form of male supremacism that's very much centered around charismatic influencers who monetize misogynistic discourse. And since then, we've really seen across the world, many countries at least, similar figures to Tate emerge. We also know that Tate is a very central figure in the Anglo-American manosphere. A lot of other streamers, influencers, have collaborated with Tate. He's appeared on a range of podcasts. And so he's really the most kind of visible figure of this algorithmically amplified, monetized male supremacist ecosystem that we're seeing today.
Now, Andrew Tate and his brother were previously charged with rape and human trafficking in Romania, where they had lived, but they left the country after a travel ban was lifted, reportedly after lobbying from the Trump administration. And this gives rise to suggestions that they have supporters in very high positions in the United States.
So that's what some of the media reporting has pointed to, at least to some kind of lobbying in the US administration for the lifting of that travel ban. Of course, that's something that Donald Trump himself and people close to him have denied. However, Andrew Tate has repeatedly said that he is close to Donald Trump, or at least that's something he's claimed. He has called on his supporters to vote for Trump in 2024. So I think that Andrew Tate has certainly sought those connections, and actually a spokesperson for the White House indicated that the US administration would not oppose his extradition. So it feels that those links, at least perhaps the US administration has opportunistically used as, perhaps the communities that Andrew Tate has given them access to, but that they might not go all the way in supporting him.
Now, the Tate brothers are maybe figures of scorn and ridicule online for many older people, particularly those over the age of 30, but they do wield a strong influence among younger men.
I mean, they have, for sure, at least in the UK and in many parts of the kind of Anglosphere. We know that in the UK, waves of harassment in schools were directly linked to young men consuming Andrew Tate content. We also know that through algorithms, the exposure of young men to these narratives, to that content that Andrew Tate has produced has been extensive. However, I think that the influence goes beyond, in the sense that since then we've really seen an ecosystem of, figures very similar to Tate emerge. And so I think that although we can really focus on Tate himself, in practice, he has really inspired another generation of similar influencers who are following similar recipes for online engagement and monetization as well.
Now, the Tate brothers are obviously responsible for their own actions, but where do social media platforms stand in all of this?
I mean, social media platforms and their design and amplification systems have really led to the emergence of Andrew Tate. As I said, in 2022, in the space of a few weeks, months, the content just got billions of views on a platform like TikTok. Of course, Andrew Tate was banned from some of these social media platforms, but reports showed that Andrew Tate fans continued to share the content and continued to share videos. And so really, the social media platforms didn't do enough to stem the kind of circulation of that content. Of course, Andrew Tate was, after being banned from Twitter, was then, allowed to be back on X after Elon Musk's purchase of the platform. And so we really see that social media platforms have allowed Andrew Tate to cultivate those audiences and again, monetize his content and build an empire around misogynistic discourse.
Now, Andrew Tate and his brother are perhaps, as these charges indicate, maybe at the more extreme end of the manosphere. But do you think the problem of online misogyny also thrives in more subtle forms?
Absolutely. And I think that the male supremacist, narratives and ideologies are diverse. We see a lot of influencers and communities, promote various forms of, coercion, domination, inequality in ways which may not be as visible as Andrew Tate. And we have seen those narratives really become normalized, especially through the influencer sphere, because influencers really are able to command trust with their audiences, and they package their narratives and ideologies into aspirational content and build trust with those audiences. So a lot of really damaging norms, behaviors, and beliefs have become normalized online through different communities and influences.
Thank you very much for that, Cecile Simmons, author of Control, Hate, Delete, the new anti-feminist backlash and how we fight it.